All right, for more on Eskom's annual results, let's speak to energy specialist and CEO of Sinan Energy, Mohamed Madhi. Good afternoon, Mohamed. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Firstly, your reaction to that reported 25.5 billion loss before tax.
Good afternoon. And look, it's not unexpected. I think even on this channel, we've been saying for a while that fundamentally you have Eskom with increasing costs and an increasing debt burden, coupled with a decreasing customer base. So you have less customers, less paying customers, and you have a higher cost burden and you have higher debt. That can only lead to one thing, which is the kind of losses that we see now. And it's unfortunate. It's nothing for anyone who's predicted this to be happy about. As a country, we should be very sad about this because the country is so dependent on Eskom right now. But it was inevitable, and these results absolutely do not surprise us, given the trends that underlie them.
But it was most certainly an improvement, nevertheless, in as much as they reported a loss, though.
I think, you could say it was an improvement, but keep in mind that we did have an 18.5% increase in tariffs. So the only way that you can truly say something is improving is if your average revenue per user is going up. It's a very specific measure. And if your tariff increases are going to be contained to within inflationary levels. If you're asking for exorbitant tariff increases, it means that you haven't really fixed things. And financially, you are in more trouble than you were before. And this is why we're seeing Eskom asking for these very massive hikes for the coming financial year, which they won't get. We know they won't get that. But, this underlies their request for those kinds of tariffs.
But we heard the minister state that Eskom does need to be placed on a more sustainable footing, and of course stressing those two pressing issues being one, cost-reflective tariff structure, as well as the municipal arrear debt challenge. But how should they go about addressing at least the municipal arrears debt challenge?
It's a great question, and I think, we need an intervention above the level of Eskom to deal with the municipal debt. It's not something that Eskom within its own authority can deal with. I think it's an unfair thing generally for the country to be expecting Eskom to deal with that. There's historical reasons, there's many legacy reasons for that municipal debt, not the least of which have been certain government policies up to now. So that needs to be dealt with at that level. But the other point is that cost-reflective tariffs are probably the worst thing we can ask for, because it's going to show that Eskom's costs are very high, increasing every year. I mean, you're dealing with an old generation fleet of coal-fired power plants. You are going to have high costs. And we don't want the South African economy to be burdened with these higher costs. So how do you get around that? You get around that by creating viable alternatives that can grow and become, stable in their own right, in terms of providing power and providing new generation capacity to end users over and above just Eskom. If we try and fix the problem by just looking at Eskom, we're never going to fix this problem. Eskom's whole structural basis is uncompetitive.
But then Brian Molefe has said perhaps Eskom needs to put everybody on prepaid. I don't know if you had seen that statement about 3 weeks ago where in Parliament he had raised this and said perhaps that is the solution to deal with this issue.
I think, I don't want to step into the arena of politics, but let me say that I actually have absolutely zero interest in what Brian Molefe says, given the history that we have and his history at various state-owned entities.
But as an alternative or some sort of a solution here, because many people, at least as a member of parliament, they would want to insert certain alternatives to address the issue. You would think that this one is not viable, it's not feasible, it would not work at all. Outside of the person who has inserted this new version of how we could address the issue, that if you look at it as possibly a solution, is it even at all viable?
It will be an improvement, but it is not viable for all types of clients, and certainly not viable for the top 20% or portion of the top 20% of Eskom's clients who provide a bulk of their revenue. Right, so that's not where the problem lies. I think, and also at the municipal level, you have what we call bulk sort of payment for electricity, And to try and now institute a prepayment system there is going to be difficult. So the detail is going to be important and what exactly was meant by that and how it would be implemented. Overall, it does have the potential for improving the situation. So just, separating the person, as you said, from the suggestion, there is certainly some merit to investigate that.
And then among these issues that Eskom has to deal with are the high levels of electricity theft, which in the previous financial year led to an estimated 23 billion revenue loss. What can they do to meaningfully address this issue now of electricity theft?
Look, it's a very difficult one. And unfortunately, it requires multiple experts, not just energy experts, to be able to, resolve that particular issue. Prepayment is one, but I mean, there are so many ways, unfortunately, to get around prepayment, which is why I also hesitate to say that prepayment is a solution by itself. And, we've seen this. Eskom has seen this, and, to their credit, they've gone out and tried to rectify those situations and replaced old meters with new meters and that sort of thing. But that comes down to a societal and to a, socio-economic issue that needs to be dealt with. Again, it's outside just the capabilities of Eskom to deal with this electricity theft. You need a much wider and much more focused effort from government to be able to deal with that.
All right. Mohamed, thank you very much as always for your time on the show. That's energy specialist and CEO of Sinan Energy, Mohamed Madhi, speaking to us.